What if I told you that your low libido, stubborn belly fat, chronic exhaustion, brain fog, and inability to actually relax might not be separate problems or issues at all? What if they're all symptoms of the exact same thing? And what if that thing has less to do with, say, aging and more to do with survival? Let's talk about it. For years, I thought all of these things were separate issues. I legit thought that they were hormonal or related to emotional issues. And I thought they were also just part of being a busy woman carrying a lot of responsibility. And I especially thought they were also a big part of perimenopause. But then eventually I realized there was a common thread running through each of these things. And recently, I shared a meme on Facebook that captured that realization perfectly. So here's the meme. For those who are listening and not watching, the meme depicts a woman seated in front of a fireplace, I think roasting marshmallow or something like that, with the caption, "The more problems a woman has to solve alone, the less attractive her partner becomes." So yeah, a friend commented on that post and said something I really appreciated. She said, "I'd love to know the actual science behind this." And I thought, aw, curiosity, my love language. So yes, I love it. And that's what we're going to get into. Most people see this meme and think, oh, it's a relationship post. Well, I don't. I see it as a nervous system post. And I talk about these ideas all the time in my work, but I've never really broken down the biology behind them in a video. So today, that's exactly what I'm gonna do. And we're gonna dive into what chronic survival does to a woman's body and her desire. So first off, let's talk about why this matters. This topic specifically matters deeply to me, not because I want to polarize men and women. What interests me specifically is the biology behind it. Because when we understand what the body is doing and why, we stop personalizing physiology. We stop shaming ourselves and blaming each other. And we can start making better decisions from a place of awareness. We can start asking better questions. This also matters to me because, well, it's personal. In many ways, I was the poster child for chronic survival. And I'm not talking about being really busy and overwhelmed. I'm talking about the kind of survival that starts in childhood, the kind that wires our nervous system to expect chaos, the kind that teaches a little girl that safety is conditional and vigilance, hypervigilance is necessary. And this was long before I was a mother, long before I was married, long before I built businesses or coached men. My nervous system had already learned hypervigilance and self-protection. Yeah. And if I trace my own pattern back far enough, it leads directly to the origin of my mother wound. I was raised in an environment that lacked consistency, stability, and emotional and physical safety. And when a nervous system is shaped in an environment like that, it naturally adapts. It learns to chronically scan and anticipate. It learns to brace for impact. It learns how to cope and survive that environment. And when that's your blueprint, you don't just survive difficult environments, you unconsciously recreate them wherever you go. Different faces, different circumstances, same nervous system. Unconsciously recreating the same frequency of danger. So for years, my body didn't know the difference between an actual emergency and any ordinary Tuesday. And eventually that caught up with me. And after the birth of my first son, or in between the birth of both of my sons, I was diagnosed with adrenal fatigue, what some practitioners now describe as HPA axis dysfunction. Now, whatever label you want to use, the result was the same. I was exhausted, beyond exhausted, a level of exhaustion and fatigue that I previously couldn't even imagine. I know I didn't take it seriously before I experienced it because I couldn't fathom it. And after living a life running on adrenaline, I had always had a higher than average strength and energy, and then suddenly, nope, I could barely function. I could barely get through my day. I was so exhausted, my adrenals were shot, and it took me years to understand what chronic survival was actually costing me, because I couldn't see it. It was too common, it was too normal for me. So when I talk about this subject, I'm not speaking from theory, I'm speaking from lived experience. And I am living proof what we survive shapes us. But it doesn't have to define us. So let's talk about what really happens inside the female body when survival mode becomes our dominant paradigm. Because our body is resilient. It's designed to visit survival mode, but it's not designed to like move in and sign a lease and plant roots, you know, meet the neighbors, have potlucks. Anyway, before we dive in, I want to be really crystal clear. This video is not about ideology, politics, or even feminism. It's about biology. Because whether we acknowledge it or not, the body is always responding to our environment. And the body is always asking one fundamental question: am I safe? And the answer to that question influences nearly everything. It influences our hormones, our mood, our energy, our resilience and recovery, our health, our capacity for connection, our ability to receive and process information, and of course, therefore, also even our ability to experience attraction and desire. So here's where things get interesting. When the body receives or perceives a threat, whether that threat is physical, emotional, financial, relational, or psychological, the brain doesn't stop and ask for evidence. It doesn't gather data. It doesn't call a board meeting, right? It just reacts. Because survival always takes priority over logic. So what happens? Well, the first thing to sound the alarm is the amygdala. Think of it as the brain's smoke detector. Its job is to scan the environment for anything that is perceived as a threat, anything that feels dangerous. And once it detects a threat, it immediately triggers, okay, this isn't safe, something isn't safe, you know, we have to do something. And then from there, the hypothalamus steps in. Now, the hypothalamus is like our body's command center. It sends messages through the nervous system and the endocrine system, where our hormones are produced predominantly, and it prepares the body to respond. And from there, an entire chemical cascade begins, right? We have adrenaline arrives first on the scene, heart rate increases, breathing gets faster, blood pressure rises. Blood flow is strategically redirected towards the muscles to help us mobilize away from the threat. Digestion slows down. The body prepares for action, mobilization, fight, flight, or even freeze or fawn. But the goal is simple, the goal is the same: survive. And then we have cortisol coming onto the scene. Now, cortisol gets a bad rep, right? Because it's the stress hormone, but cortisol isn't actually the enemy. It's really incredibly useful. It's designed to help us survive difficult, potentially life-threatening situations. It raises our blood sugar for quick energy, it sharpens our alertness, it mobilizes resources, and it temporarily redirects energy away from anything the body considers extraneous or non-essential. Because when a threat is present, our body becomes incredibly practical with a focus on efficiency, not ideals. Its attitude is basically, okay, we're trying not to die right now, so anything other than survival is gonna have to wait. And that's where things get interesting. And I find this fascinating because when the body starts deprioritizing things like, well, rest, digestion, repair and recovery, reproductive function, pleasure, desire, and long-term health, well, it changes the game, right? Survival always skips to the front of the line and prioritizes itself, which, if you think about it, it makes perfect sense. But while we're going through it, it's obnoxious. So in a healthy system, this is temporary because the threat passes, the nervous system has a chance to settle, recalibrate, cortisol comes back down, and the body returns to a baseline, right? Then we're able to digest, rest, sleep, connect, co-regulate, we can recover, and everything works exactly how it was designed to. But chronic survival is different because the threat never actually seems to fully leave. Like it redesigns the system, it restructures the pattern, and the alarm stays on. So the chemical cocktail of survival stays in our bloodstream, pumping through our bloodstream with the same emergency process as if you were in immediate danger. Like you could be straight chilling in your PJs in a climate controlled, cushy, safe environment, but if your brain registers a threat, even if it's just hypothetical on your phone, right? The chemical cocktail in your bloodstream responds and your nervous system remains activated. And eventually your body starts organizing itself around survival instead of just happy thriving. And then you have this chemical roller coaster you can't just hop off. And that's where it starts paying a toll. Because our wiring was designed to respond to danger. It was never designed to live there long term. I know. This is why we're talking about this. So here's the part I think many women intuitively get, but not many people are talking about this. And so we're going to dive in. I'm going to explain this. All right. We know that women are extraordinarily capable. We can multitask like a mofo. We build businesses. We birth and raise children. Hello. We run households. We lead teams. We solve problems. We're badasses. We can adapt to almost anything. And we've been doing hard things for a long time, right? No big deal. So the issue is not competence. I want to make that clear. But the issue is, at what cost is it worth it? Because when cortisol remains elevated for long periods of time in our system, the body starts making significant trade-offs. Our sleep is the first thing, usually, to get affected, and then it gets interrupted, disrupted, anxiety increases, brain fog creeps in, and you feel exhausted, yet somehow wired. Like your body doesn't know how to just let go and relax. But chemically, your body and mind won't let you. And so for women, the effects go even deeper because chronically high levels of stress are especially detrimental to our female biology. Now, men have a tendency to grow through challenges and they handle survival stress differently than women, but we need safety to optimize our health and recovery. So what happens when that's not an option? Well, chronic stress can disrupt the healthy production and regulation of our reproductive hormones, like estrogen and progesterone, and the delicate hormonal rhythms that support fertility, libido, emotional resilience, our cycle health. And this sadly eventually results in a lower or non-existent libido, more intense PMS, irregular cycles, difficulty feeling pleasure, difficulty accessing desire, and simply feeling disconnected from our own femininity and softness. It doesn't feel safe. So if this sounds familiar, please note, your body is not broken. It's just merely adapting. And from the body's perspective, this is just an efficient use of resources. Because if resources are limited and danger is present, then reproduction and pleasure, it moves way down the priority list, right? The body says, okay, we can't focus on all that juicy stuff. We can't focus on pleasure or intimacy right now. Right now, we're just trying to survive, B. Like, focus in. And so the same thing happens with many of the physical symptoms that we women struggle with that are often swept under that rug labeled aging or perimenopause. Symptoms like hair loss or thinning, vaginal dryness, skin dryness, inflammation, digestive issues, fatigue, memory loss, and weight gain, especially around the midsection. So before you get all up into your feels about that belly fat, let me just say this. Your body is not trying to betray you. No, it's trying to protect you. Yeah. Because from a biological perspective, stored energy is security. It's survival. It's living through the winter. It's your body preparing for uncertainty, scarcity, famine. Yeah, it's preparing for the next challenge or threat. regardless of whether that challenge is real or not. And I think this is why so many women feel almost trapped in this exhausting cycle, right? Because logic says, oh, I'm going to diet harder. I'm going to work out harder. I'm going to push harder. I'm going to cardio harder. I'm going to control more, manage more. And then we wonder why nothing changes. If anything, it seems to get worse. Meanwhile, our nervous system is over here like screaming at us like, yo, sis, we are under attack. Hold on to that weight no matter what. We need it to survive. And so everything is working against us. Now, lean in because this part is crucial. You cannot out-discipline a nervous system that believes it's in danger. The body has to feel safe before it can fully heal. Yeah, it has to feel safe before it can fully relax. Your body has to feel safe before it will willingly release all of the protections it works so hard to build and to store. Because survival physiology is not going to just respond to willpower or mindset techniques. It only responds to safety. So you can't fake it. You can't fake safety. And the same goes for arousal, attraction, arousal, all of that, right? And this brings us to the part of that meme that I showed you that tends to attract people's attention first and foremost, and that's the attraction piece, right? Because this is where, this is where it gets really cool. And this is also where a lot of misconceptions happen. So when a woman loses desire, attraction, erotic responsiveness, people often assume it's always emotional or relational or personal, right? They assume she fell out of love with her partner or that she lost interest or that something changed. And sometimes, yeah, that happens. It's true. But most of the time, it's actually something much deeper. It's actually biology. Yeah, because female arousal is not merely psychological, it's also physiological. It is hormonal, it is neurological, but most importantly, it's contextual based on what's going on. Like if a woman's body is constantly responding to the environment around her, right? Not just physically, but also emotionally, energetically, relationally. Is that a word? And the nervous system is continuously asking, like, am I safe? Is it safe enough for me to receive? Is it safe enough for me to let go? Is it safe enough for me to relax and seek pleasure and receive pleasure? Because unlike survival, arousal requires a certain amount of openness and surrender. We have to feel safe. It requires vulnerability. Yeah, it requires presence. And those things are really difficult to access when your nervous system is on autopilot preparing for danger. So think about it. If your body believes that there is a threat nearby, even if he's a super hot package, right? It doesn't care about pleasure. It only cares about protecting you. So if he says something that triggers you, your body believes that you have to protect yourself. So if you feel like you're carrying the world on your shoulders, your body's not going to prioritize desire. It's going to prioritize responsibility. And this is exactly where so many women, including myself, get stuck. When you're living in a chronic state of overfunctioning, managing, planning, anticipating, fixing, reminding, scheduling, holding it all together, being the strategist, the emotional regulator, the analyst, the timekeeper, the operations coordinator. Eventually the body adapts and the survival state becomes your new norm, which means that also creates your new baseline of hormones and chemicals. And your body's like, got it. We're living in a survival mode now. So we're just going to adjust accordingly and poof, there goes your libido, darling. Yeah, you're welcome. And once survival becomes your dominant operating system, attraction and arousal, they get pushed all the way to the end of the line. Not intentionally or consciously, just biologically. Because erotic energy and arousal require resources. They require availability, spaciousness. And it's very difficult to feel spacious when your nervous system is carrying the weight of an entire household or a challenging relationship, a business, or a family system. This is why I often tell women who I'm coaching, you can't outthink your nervous system. You just can't. You can't affirm or pretend or manifest your way out of biology. Spiritual bypassing and another one day or a weekend retreat isn't going to reset the pattern. It's not going to reset the pattern. And as we already know, you cannot shame or guilt yourself back into desire or arousal. The body needs an experience, a different reality and a norm, safety, before it can create a different response. It needs a new baseline. And sadly, that does not happen overnight. So attraction isn't something we can force or fake. It's something that emerges when the conditions are right. And that brings us to the natural solution that people often misunderstand or deeply resist: containment. Yes. Yeah. So specifically masculine containment. And before anyone assumes they know what I mean by masculine containment, no, I'm not talking about control. All right. I'm not talking about dominance. I'm not talking about dependency or any archaic form of hierarchy or repression. Okay. I just want to be clear about that. I'm talking about something much more fundamental: safety, reliability, presence, competence, the experience of knowing that you are protected and cared for, and you don't have to do it all by yourself. Because when a female body finally receives that level of support, protection, security, provision, care, leadership, and holding, something profound happens. Her nervous system is finally given permission to do something it may not have done in years. Let go of control. Fully relax. Fully exhale. And when this finally happens, the threat response slowly gets quiet and our bodies stop preparing for danger. Our nervous system finally shifts out of fight or flight and back towards a regulated state of surrender. Tension drops, shoulders relax, your jaw unclenches, your breath deepens, your mind gets quieter. Your body no longer has to spend every waking moment preparing for impact or reaction. And biologically, that's a really big deal, because when safety increases, stress hormones finally decrease. Cortisol lessens. Adrenaline ceases. The body starts reallocating resources towards healing, health, recovery, beauty, pleasure, instead of just survival. And you get to become more playful and drop out of defense. So oxytocin, the female hormone associated with connection, safety, affection, emotional closeness, it increases, circulation improves, digestion recovers, sleep deepens, recovery optimizes, and your reproductive hormones finally function the way they were designed to. Your body exits bracing mode and it enters the receiving mode. And you're no longer spending all of your energy protecting yourself. So energy becomes available again for all the good stuff, all the fun stuff like creativity, intimacy, play, pleasure, connection, desire, life. So the question isn't whether women can survive. Yeah, of course we can. We've proven that. We're badass. The question is, at what cost being stuck in survival that long? And when a woman spends years and even decades in chronic survival mode, constantly carrying the weight of every responsibility, survival becomes the focus, not beauty or pleasure or attraction. Everything becomes her responsibility and therefore a burden and problem to solve. So healthy masculine containment offers something different, something naturally designed to optimize the female nervous system, all right? Not rescue, but relief. Not control, but support. Not dependency, but safe leadership, partnership, the experience of knowing someone else is capable. They got it. They got you. Oh, they got you. That someone else is present and available to carry the weight, handle the hard stuff, and ward off the danger and neutralize the threats. Yeah, and whether people like it or not, our biology is specifically designed for this type of symbiotic dynamic. I'm down with it. So back to the meme. Most people look at that meme and they immediately interpret it as a statement about relationships or attraction, right? I get it. Me, I don't. I see it as a statement about the nervous system and how it's kind of operating everything and controlling everything behind the scene. Because the more problems a woman has to solve alone, the more her body is forced to organize itself around vigilance, self-protection, and chronic stress. And this is going to be a filter that we perceive everything through, internally and externally. Now, we are wired for connection. We're wired for support. We are wired for co-regulation. And while our friends, our family, our mentors and community and other women can absolutely provide pieces of that support, a healthy masculine presence offers something unique. Think about like that daddy energy, right? Is there anything that feels safer? The ability to help transform safety from a concept into a lived experience is so valuable. And when that finally happens and a woman has consistent help and safety, internal and external, everything begins to change. Her body softens, her mind quiets, her energy returns, her creativity blossoms, her warmth comes back online, and very often her desire returns too. Yeah. And I know this concept brings up a bunch of questions and even resistance around masculine containment, and I will go into this more in future videos, and we'll unpack exactly what healthy masculine containment looks and feels like in practice, and absolutely what it isn't, because I know many people have never seen it modeled before. So please subscribe to be notified about these important convos, because I assure you they will be eye-opening and go deeper into lasting solutions and how to access them. But for now, let's get back to you. Healing begins the moment we stop asking, what's wrong with me? And I get it. I ask myself this all the time. And instead, we start asking, what has my body been trying to protect me from? Because biology is one of our greatest teachers. And the more we learn to listen to it, the more we can work with our body instead of constantly fighting against it. Yeah. And before we wrap this up, I want to be very clear about one thing. The solution isn't just finding a man, okay? That's not what I'm saying here. And the solution isn't trying harder. The solution isn't becoming more productive, more disciplined. Well, discipline is important, but it's not all about that. It's not about becoming more independent. The first step is always awareness, because you cannot heal a pattern you can't see. You cannot change a nervous system response you don't understand. And you can't create safety if you've never stopped long enough to ask your body what it's protecting you from. So for many women, healing begins with recognizing that survival has become an identity, and then slowly, intentionally creating experiences of safety through boundaries, nervous system regulation, healthy relationships, community, support, through learning that you don't have to carry everything alone. You're not designed for it. There is a better way than hyper-independence. And healing doesn't just happen the moment you understand the pattern, but understanding the pattern is where healing begins. So, if this video resonated with you, these are the kind of topics I love to dive into. My name is Jerica, and this is where we talk about awesome things like motherhood, masculinity, leadership, nervous system health, human behavior, and what it takes to raise strong, grounded sons who enter manhood with their integrity, strength, and capacity to lead intact, with big, open, juicy hearts. My favorite topics. So if you found this helpful, please like, subscribe, and share with someone who needs to hear it. We're all in this together after all, like it or not. And wherever you are on the path, I am so glad you're here. Remember, stay curious, ask the questions, and I will see you in the next video.